Guys, special guest today. We have Mr. Jason Pound joining us. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. We're glad to have you.
Good to be here.
So let's go ahead and jump right in. For those that don't know you yet, what's the quick version of how and why you started your business or your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, as you know, I talk slow. Nothing happens quick except my home sales. The brutally honest version is I was managing 6 states for the retail side of a commercial bank, and I was doing pretty good financially. And my wife had started the real estate company. And after about, I can't remember if it was like 2 or 3 years, she passed me an income, and it was all ego. I I had been thinking for years about doing some sort of entrepreneurial business because I was a small business lender and I just like being around entrepreneurs and I have them all in my family. So when she passed me an income, I was like, oh, I want some of that. And about 6 months in, she fired me. I didn't have the right attitude. And I went off into the valley of despair for a few years, taught high school in economics, managed a tech support team for Apple Care. Didn't work directly for Apple. It was a local company that had the contract. And in the back of my mind, I wanted a second shot at that, at entrepreneurship to prove that I could make it. But that's how it started was ego, competition with my wife.
I'm sure she loves that. Well,
You know, had I been smart and we both just had two great incomes, there's no telling where we could be by now. Uh, so a lot of times us entrepreneurs are just hard headed.
but you know what? You guys have gotten to a place where I'll brag on you a little bit. You're the top, what is it, 10% in Oklahoma for
I don't
realtor?
know if it's for statewide, but we hit last year, we hit top 5% in the OKC metro, and we hit top 2% in the Norman metro.
I mean, that's a pretty for starting out with just ego. I mean, you guys have really put together just a solid business clientele following. You know what you can do. You get the houses sold quickly uh, for your clients, and everyone loves you. I mean, I remember when we first met, and you told me that you could sell a house in 72 hours or less, and I was like, well, how? Why? What? And then you showed me all the houses that you guys had been selling, and so you guys have just put together a fantastic uh, business, and it speaks for itself. So for something that started the way it did, you guys are sure kicking butt now.
I feel so lucky, and I've had people tell me that it's the imposter syndrome, but I don't feel like I belong here. I look at the numbers and I go, yes, we do have anomalous results. The question is, can we do it multiple years in a row? Can we do it decades in a row? Can we be more than just a flash in the pan? That's what's driving me right now.
Absolutely. I feel like we all at some point experience that in one way or another. You get to that place you're achieving, and at least for me, I get somewhere I want to be, feel like I'm on top of the mountain, and then kind of question, okay, well, is this it? I mean, I want more. I want to feel like I'm chasing, achieving something. And so personally, I feel like we all kind of go through that at some point in our entrepreneurial journey. I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those reasons you started. For you, it was ego. You wanted to get some of that, and then you start the chase of, okay, well, I want to be the best. So my second question is for those that are just starting, or maybe they're not just starting, but something that they could learn from. What would you say is one of the biggest mistakes that you made early on, and how could someone listening today avoid it?
I remembered we discussed whether we wanted to pre-expose me to the questions or do them on the fly.
Yeah,
So I chose on the fly. I like to keep things real and authentic. I'm not a good actor. So grant me grace as I think through these,
it's all right.
friend.
All right.
Um, For me, my biggest lesson in life, not just entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship, where when you work for somebody else and you're helping them to build their vision. I'm going to give you a stat first and then elaborate. As I always say on my YouTube channel, let me over explain. Um, at our 23rd year wedding anniversary, for fun, Jerica, my wife, and I sat down and tried to remember every single job I've ever had. And we know we missed some, but we came up with 24 jobs in 23 years of marriage. I am a master of planting seeds and watering and weeding and creating a beautiful garden or farm and then leaving just before the harvest. And there's something to be said for sticking to something long enough to see the results of your efforts. And I never did that until my final leg of my banking career and more recently in real estate. Those are the two areas that I have excelled. And it has been because of mentors and leaders in my life who helped me to not follow my feelings. As it's famously said online, feelings aren't facts. And if you go with your feelings day in and day out, you're going to constantly be course correcting and changing direction. Whereas if you'll make a decision before you enter into the storm, before you go to battle, before you go to execute, you have to make some mental decisions. And then you turn off your brain and you just execute day in and day out. And before you go in, you make up your mind, how long am I going to push this rock up the hill before I step back and reevaluate it? Because I'm a master of talking myself out of a plan. And I can create a new business plan every single day and get the dopamine hit of creativity, but
Mm.
have never actually done anything or get bored with what I'm doing and change it before I see the results.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard something similar before that resonated with me. Is something along the lines of, as entrepreneurs, we have the uh, what's the right word? The tendency to do half-built bridges. So we start, we go all at it, we build it halfway, and then we get bored with it, or we see the next thing that we want to do, and we start building that bridge, and so we leave this line of half-built bridges. So I I I'm kind of with you there on that. I've done that many times, and it's exactly like you said. The things that I have stuck with and just done for an extended period of time, those are the areas I've had success. I'm gonna use a sports example because I know that we both golf. You helped get me into golf. You saw me start. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't good, but it was for the simple fact that I loved the game and I liked going out and being able to spend time with people, and I just enjoyed doing it even though I wasn't good at it at the time. You fast forward 2, 3 years, and now I consider myself somewhat decent. And I think it's just I think it applies to just about every area in life. What is it that they say you have to put in your 10,000 hours? Something along
Yeah.
those lines. And so you just gotta put in the time and just stick with it.
For those of your audience who haven't read it, at a minimum, go get the book review of The Outlier Effect. That is a fantastic study of success and excellence. Another trap is success leads to success and opportunity leads to opportunity. So as you start experiencing success in one factor of your life, what will seem like the opportunity to add additional products to your value offering, so to speak, are actually just distractions that will keep you from the one thing that will keep propelling you further and further. I'm sure there is a point where you diversify,
Mhm.
but most people, include myself, aren't at that level. And if we divide our attention, we become mediocre at everything. So it's best to stay all in that one thing that you're just killing it at, and then leverage your way out of that, and then use your time to expand. But most people just think, oh, I can do this on top of this, and I've never seen success that way for me. Staying single-minded and single-focused and not being distracted by other opportunities. They're just as legit, but you have to start the farm all over again.
Yeah. I think I had this conversation yesterday or the day before. Online, everyone's got this great side hustle that you can start today and be making $15,000 by tomorrow. Like everyone's got it. And there's a certain aspect that like, sure, you can make money with drop shipping, or you can make money in real estate, or you can make money in all these different things. But I think the thing that people get hung up on is they try and do it like immediately. Like, I'm gonna start today and by next week I'm gonna be great. And I mean, I think if you just stick it out over time, I think you will see success. If you're continually going in every day and you're doing the right things, I'm not saying that you have to just be doing everything, but just going in every day, making the right things, doing the right things every day, and do it for a year. Like, one of my favorite books that I'll throw out there is The Compound Effect. And I mean, it's a great book, and it's over those things. You have different decisions. Okay, what if after eating dinner every day, you went for a 10-minute walk versus going and sitting on the couch? And what does your life look like in 5 years? Or, I mean, both of those steps. If you work out for 15 minutes a day, what does that look like over 10 years? Same thing with business. If you make 5 cold calls a day, or if you do just those small steps of just doing the right thing for an extended period of time. But I think
That's
most
another
people
trap.
getting to do the extended period of time thing.
Success is another trap. Um, the Oh, and by the way, I had my kids read The Compound Effect to me every day on the way to school. I make them read out loud a self help book,
That's awesome.
and it took us about 32 days for them to read it to me. Um, right now, I'm reading them the book. It's too complicated. Even I struggle with it. The five things you cannot change, um, and we're reading through that and talking through that. But when I first came back to real estate, I had my master's degree, and I was teaching high school algebra and economics. And I think at that time I was making a whopping $42,000 a year. And that was because I had my master's. I got a pay raise and I was at a charter school. And then the last 2 years, I went more towards the public school and had to take a little pay cut. And I taught eighth grade. Had a lot more fun.
Mhm,
I think it bumped me down to 38 or 40,000. I can't remember.
mhm.
But my first 3 months back in real estate, I made $45,000. And I thought, "Oh my goodness, I am the man." And I took my foot off the gas pedal.
Mm.
And the things that made me successful in my first 3 months, I thought I'd already figured out and didn't need to do anymore. And I about starved to death over the next 12 months. So after you get the rock going, don't take your foot off the gas because that thing will roll back down the hill right on top of you.
Well, I feel like we all kinda have that tendency. We go out and we start and you start to have a little bit of success, and it's like you experience that just enough success, and you think you can take your foot off the gas just a little bit, and it never works out. I've never seen it once. When I've done it, when anyone else that I know has done it, never seen it work out once. And it's kinda like this question of why? What makes us delusional enough to think that after all the times that we've seen it, we somehow think, "Well, this time's gonna be different. I've got everything set up to where I can do it this time."
That's a myth I run into over and over when I was a banker
Mhm,
and in real estate. I'm a productivity coach at the office. So I mentor new agents for their first 8 transactions. And as you know, I'm heavily involved in networking.
mhm,
So I deal a lot with business owners. And everybody has the goal of that book. I don't know if you've read it, The E Myth or The E Myth Revisited. But the goal is to create a business in such a way that you replace yourself and hire others to do it.
mhm,
And so that in the end, you're not tied to the business, you're tied to managing the business. And everybody I talk to, their goal is to exit the business and pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
And all of those people are starving to death. Um, if your goal is to exit the business, you might be in the wrong business. Um, and maybe it's just because I haven't leveled up far enough to truly exit the business, so to speak. But all the people in my life that are successful, they love what they're doing. And my whole life, I'm at now the past 3 years have been different, but for most of my life, I've been very bipolar and suffered with depression and suicidal ideation and those things. And I've always hated my life. I hated what I was doing. And that was why I wanted to start a business so I could hire somebody else to do what I didn't want to do. And I woke up the other day and realized for the first time in my life, I was aware that I did not hate my life and did not hate what I was doing to earn an income. And that's why I'm able to pull such crazy hours is I no longer view it as work. It's it's not always fun, but it's not really work. Like yesterday, I was up at 5 in the morning and I was at the office at midnight last night. I got home at 12:45. Now that's no way to run a family and to maintain your relationships, but there are seasons where you put the pedal to the metal and you pay the price and you put in those extra hours. And it's not like you're clock watching. You're just executing, doing what it takes to get things done for your family and for your clients. And you wake up and go, "Wow, where'd the day go?" Whereas in the past, you're constantly watching that clock. When's it 4:58? Oh, when's it going to be 4:59? Oh, when's it going to be 5? And then the boss, "Hey, can you do this one last project for you?" "Oh God, I'm going to be here till 5:30." It's not that way anymore.
Yeah. So, kinda going off of that, I think that's a fairly good segue into my next question, which is if you lost everything today, all you had is your knowledge, everything else is gone, how would you start over? How would you rebuild from 0 if you lost everything today and all you have is your knowledge and the lessons that you've learned?
There's a lot of different ways I could go with that because my son asked me a similar question. He said, if life was like Mario and you had multiple lives, what lives would you lead? And we had the conversation of where I love music and I play bass and drums and piano, and I would have loved to had the music life. And I'm a math dork. I'm an economics dork. I would have loved to have been a research scientist or a college professor. Um, I love theology and philosophy. I would have loved to have been a pastor, so to speak. So there's so many different lives that I would have loved to live. I don't have enough hours to do them all. So if I had to restart, it would depend on what was I restarting with the enlightenment that material things don't matter and I was totally going to seek fulfillment. Because I'll be honest, what drives me right now is finances. I want to be able to make enough money to give enough money to fix local problems in my local community. I've ranted and raved for so many years about things that were above my pay grade. And there's nothing that I can really do about presidential level. There's nothing I can really do at state level. And there's probably nothing I can do at city level, but I can do things at the neighborhood level. I can do things at the chamber level. I can do things at the school level. Um, so it would depend on where I was in my mindset. If I was light enough where material success did not matter as much, I might actually use my business knowledge to go be successful in a band or be successful with an art studio because I like to paint and draw and those things like that. I actually have paintings out there that have been sold for nonprofit auctions with my signature on them. Um, and with my business sense, I think I could make those profitable ventures. So part of me is drawn to the creative side.
Mhm.
The other part of me is drawn to the spiritual side. For those of you that follow my social media, I converted to Christianity about 32 or 33 days ago. And the aesthetic lifestyle has always been a draw to me. Um, I'm married and have kids, so I couldn't go be a hardcore monk, but we could definitely downgrade our lifestyle and live a much simpler life. That's very appealing to me. But if I had to start over in real estate, I would probably go in a parallel business because I understand real estate so well. I know all of the parallel businesses that us realtors are willing to pay money for. I know how to do transaction coordination properly. I know how to do lead generation properly. I know how to farm and run a database properly. I I have enough skills where I could be hired by another real estate team to immediately come in and give them a return on investment. Or I could start my own parallel business. For example, realtors don't like to put up their own signs. Realtors don't like to knock their own doors. So there's a lot of parallel businesses. The final thing that I would consider is a complete change. Right now, we're in the middle of the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. I call it the AI revolution. And I know of folks right now that are utilizing similar AI skills that I have and teaching others how to do that. So I might start an AI centered coaching and sales company that teach people how to lead generate, leveraging their relationships and their online presence at the same time. So there's a lot of different ways I could go. So if I was trying to help somebody else, I would say look for that crossroad
Mhm.
of competency and passion, and where those two cross, find a solution that you can provide and go all in that area. And I don't think it would be easy. I don't think I would be able to maintain my current lifestyle. We might have to go back to a one bedroom apartment and pay $500 for a beater and get a part time job to pay the bills and the rent. But I have no doubt that I could start another entrepreneurial enterprise and within a few years be back at it again. I now have the work ethic. You realize it's the systems and commitment to your systems that produce the results. It's not your brilliant personality. It's not your brilliant business idea. Business ideas are a dime a piece. It's the person who can create the plan and daily execute it without deviation. Those are the ones who can go out and start businesses over and over and over again.
So, going off of that, if someone's listening right now and they say, "Okay, I understand all that, but I really enjoy the idea of real estate." Say it's a younger person, and maybe their passion is people or helping people, and they wanna do that through real estate or adjacent. How would you recommend for them to start? So, 18, no money, no connections, like, they know they wanna get started in the real estate business. They don't have money to invest in it. They don't really know anything about it, but they know they wanna get started in real estate and be successful. What is that kind of advice of how you would encourage them to start and be able to be in a comfortable place, maybe 12 months from today?
I'm going to be very specific to real estate, but this applies to any business. Life is more fun when you have money and when you have assets and when you have relationships. Nobody's going to argue that. But if you go to a no limit poker game and your whole life is on the line, you've got a whole lot more to lose and you're going to play differently. Whereas if you show up with $10 and you don't care if you win or lose, you're just going to follow the odds and the chips fall where they fall and you're going to execute. It's that devil may care attitude that allows you to hit some home runs and have some really, really big wins. So while you're broke and while you don't have relationships and while you don't have responsibilities, that is the time to go swing for the fences. The problem is most young men and most young ladies, they don't swing for the fences. They don't go all in. They want to dip their toe in the water and they want to be smart and they want to be logical. And the successful people I know are not smart. They're not logical. They don't dip their toe. They pull their clothes off and they jump in the deep end of the pool and then they learn how to swim as they're gurgling on the bottom. Um, and maybe that's just my personality type. So that's who I'm drawn to. And those are the people that I go work with. Um, However, after you have built some business chops and after you've built some success, that's when you become calm, cool, and calculated with how you're going to use your assets to the best effect. But when you don't have any assets, you have to be aggressive, be aggressive, the old cheerleader cheer, and go get it. So, helping somebody get started in real estate, the number one thing I would recommend they do is read the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Most people don't realize that the job of a real estate agent is not to help people buy and sell real estate. That is the fruit of your labor. What is your actual labor? Your labor is lead generation. How do you go out and actually find clients who want to buy and sell real estate so that you have a transaction to participate in? And when you were 18, 19, and 20 years old and you've never bought your own house, I bought my first one at 21. So I had a little bit of experience thanks to my parents. The biggest thing you have to overcome is who's going to listen to me. Lots of people are going to listen to you. You went out and you took your real estate test, you passed the test, you have knowledge in your head that the average bear does not have. And if you will study and practice and learn, become a student of your trade and a student of your craft, and you fill your head full of knowledge, when the time comes, you will be able to execute. Uh, you hate to say it, but it's on the job training. Go out and find a deal and then figure out how to do it. And that's how every real estate agent has started. Those agents who go, well, I want to understand everything. I don't want to make any mistakes. Those are the ones who don't make it because they never get a deal. It's those crazy people who go jump in the deep end of the pool and find two or three people who want to buy or sell houses and they don't have a clue what they're doing. They're making mistakes left and right. And that's my favorite thing to help people realize is when I'm competing as a realtor, 71% of real estate agents didn't close a deal last year. If you don't do a deal, and 21% close less than 10. So if you're not dealing with a top 10% realtor, you're dealing with a part-timer who's learning on you and it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. But as an experienced realtor, I get to say that. But your typical consumer doesn't know that. They just know you passed your test, you dress nice, you talk well, you practice your scripts, you're polished, you've got some statistics, you've got a good pitch, and you're not a douchebag, you're not a bad person. They're rooting for you. They want you to win. So number one, dig into the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That will show you what the day-to-day job of a real estate agent is. It's database growth, database management. How do you grow your database? You go out and engage with strangers. How do you manage your database? You go out and re-engage all of those strangers until they're your friends and your clients. Then once they're your friends and your clients, you re-engage them so they stay your friends and they stay your clients. And that is the true job of a real estate agent is how do I stay in somebody's face so that that one time every 5 to 7 years that they're going to do a real estate transaction, they think of me rather than the other 2,000 agents that are on the same block as me bragging on social media about a closing every single day. That's the job of a real estate agent, and that is not an easy job. Once you do that correctly, then you've earned the right to engage in the fruit of your labor, which is helping people buy, helping people sell, helping people build, helping people invest. And it's stressful, but that is the fun part of a job. That's number one is read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Number two, listen to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast. You will listen to different success stories all across the nation in the Keller Williams family and hear how they made it. And there's no single blueprint to success. Introverts make it. Extroverts make it. Online people make it. Door knockers make it. People who send handwritten notes make it. Whatever style that you're comfortable with, there is a success story out there of somebody in real estate who made it doing that. You just need to follow their system and their process. And then number three, don't be greedy. A lot of people are trying to look for a way to avoid paying their brokerage. At Keller Williams, we have what's called a cap. We have it's either a 70-30 or 80-20 split. I forget what it is, but basically once I pay Keller Williams $21,000, I get to keep the rest of my compensation for the rest of the year. And I can't take that 21,000 and I can't reinvest it into my own brokerage and get the same amount of encouragement, the same amount of training, the same amount of coaching, the same amount of resources, the same amount of technology, the same amount of backup Keller Williams, I jokingly call it a cult, but for 21,000, I buy a turnkey worldwide enterprise in which I get to play. And my training is better than other realtors that haven't been with Keller Williams. My knowledge base is better, and I'm daily exposed to top performers worldwide who have no secrets to keep from me. And they're willing to open the kimono and say, here's how I did it. Here's what I struggled with. Here's what you'll probably struggle with. Here's how I overcame it. And it's not real complex. It's all quite simple, but it's hard to daily execute the plan. And when you get behind the curtain and look at top performers at Keller Williams, they're not rocket scientists. They're just dogmatic about sticking to the plan and executing every single day, no matter what happens. And so that's what I would say is find a company that is worth what you're going to pay to be in the business. And it's in Oklahoma City, it costs me about a car payment a month just to be a realtor, whether I sell anything or not. So real estate's not a cheap business, but if you come in and you work hard and you get after it, you can hit six figures your first year. There's no reason to drag it out 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. So I think that's a perfect way into the next question, which is new entrepreneurs, business owners, and in this case, new aspiring realtors. What is something that they think they need to get started, but that they don't? I've heard so many good answers because I've been through a lot of this. Oh, I need all X, Y, Z before I can even start, and most of it's not even true. So, what would you say that is for the new aspiring realtor? What's one thing they think they're going to need to get started, but that they don't?
For a new realtor at Keller Williams, I can't speak for other brokerages, but at Keller Williams, they think they need to know more about the business of real estate. And if they'll just study hard enough and learn enough information, one day they will magically get to this point where they feel comfortable and they feel competent, and all of a sudden the market will respect them. That is a complete myth. The market will respect you as much as you respect yourself. And there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. There's a fine line between being a snake oil salesman and having competence. Real estate is a mixture of science and art. And anybody who thinks they have it figured out and they have a crystal ball and they know exactly what's going to happen, you better run for the hills. The real estate market is very, very similar to the stock market. The trend is your friend until it ain't. Um, so, my recommendation to new realtors is learn how to grow your database, learn how to talk to your database, learn how to ask for business. In your first 90 days, you need to be doing whatever it takes. Millions of phone calls, knocking millions of doors, millions speaking in hyperbole, of course. But do whatever it takes so that you can get an appointment to help someone buy a house or help someone sell a house. And then you go grab a comrade at the office to help you figure it out. That's going to be the quickest way that you gain expertise in this business is doing deals.
Hmm, it's amazing advice. Speaking of advice, what what advice were you given early early on, or just at all, that turned out to be wrong? And maybe not wrong, but wrong for you. I know that there's some advice that works for some people and some not for others, but we'll just stay specific to you. What advice that did you receive early on that ended up being wrong for you?
I'm going to take it outside of the entrepreneurship world. Um, I'm an ex educator. I have a master's in business. I love education and I am obsessed with it. And there's part of me that would still like to be a college professor today. And I love my parents and I read Proverbs every day and it talks about honoring your father and mother. But my generation was fed a lie. We were told go to college, get a degree, get a good job with benefits, work hard, you'll get a pension and you'll retire comfortably. And that has not been the truth for everybody in my generation. It has been the truth for some of them, but not for all of them. So I would like to tie that in to the parallel of credentialism. In America, we do have a culture crisis right now. There's some people who believe that we're no longer a meritocracy, but there are immigrants coming over and kicking our butts every day and showing us that the American dream is still alive. And they don't have the credentials, but they have the results. We are still in a country where you don't have to have a certificate to be successful. As hard as you're willing to work and get after it, you can still make the American dream possible. If you're willing to look in the mirror and say, the reason I'm not succeeding is my fault. A certificate is not going to solve a you issue. You're going to solve a you issue.
Absolutely. I don't remember where I heard it, but it was along the lines of either everything happens because of you or everything happens to you, and you get to choose which it is. Everything can happen to you and you can be in control of nothing, or everything can happen because of you and you at least have some sort of control that you can figure it out. And that was one of the biggest just my I was like, I see it everywhere. You can easily tell who has kind of that vision and that goal and I'm gonna make it happen. And those that are, man, this happened. I can't do it. This happens. This happens. It's kind of like the joke is the joke you see on Instagram is me waking up every day to go to work and the guy's like falling over, can barely get out of bed. Me waking up at 4 a.m. to get to the golf course by by 5 for my tea time at 7. Is it- and I feel like it kind of relates. It's kind of like, what do you have that focus on? Does everything happen to you, or just does it happen because of you? Because if you want it and you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to do it like it was your favorite thing. And I say that and I still struggle with it. There's a lot of things that I love doing in business, and there's some that I don't. And I think part of it is you have to do the things that you don't want to do, but you can also find the things you enjoy to do in business too, or entrepreneurship, whatever. Mine is I like creating things. And so I go down the AI rabbit hole and the creative side, and I have that time after hours, and then during hours, I need what's the lifeblood of any business or anything? It's what you talked about earlier. It's knocking doors, making phone calls, it's getting leads, getting sales. If you don't have sales, you don't have a business. That's just that was one of the things that hurt me early on was realizing it didn't matter what I built, what I did, if I wasn't going out and making sales, it didn't matter. And I think that kinda hurts when you wanna spend all your being the builder, right? And so you have to figure out, "Okay, well, I can still be the builder, but I can build after 5, 5:30, after 6. I can do it then. During business hours, I need to pick kinda one thing. This is what I've found to be true for me. I need to find one thing and focus on it." And what like, especially most people starting out your one thing starting out is go find people. Like you were talking about with new realtors, go knock doors, get an appointment. And then when you get the appointment, then have someone, go find someone else to help you figure out what to do. But most people, like this podcast, I had probably procrastinated for 3 weeks about, okay, well, I need the right camera. I need the right questions and I need to learn how to edit and make thumbnails and all this. And I kind of got to the point where you kind of at some point get that, uh, I don't know what you'd call it, where you keep yourself in check. You're like, no, I'm doing it again. And so then I just picked up the phone, called 3 people, said, hey, you want to come on the podcast and give some advice to younger people? Yeah, I'd love to do that. And then I went and I made some questions and I'm going to learn how to edit. And it's just, I think where I was a long winded way of saying, if you are just starting, just start. Don't plan on starting. Don't think about starting. Don't give yourself a little dopamine. Just start and figure out. I mean, obviously, don't do anything stupid, but you don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to have a quarter of everything figured out. And I've gotten to the point today where I almost feel pride in the fact that I don't need to know everything. Like, I know the people that know the answer, and I can get the answer that quick. So, anyway, that was just a long-winded way of saying that.
Was it American Psycho where they were obsessed over business cards?
It's a great question. I have not seen that movie, I'll be honest.
I think it was American Psycho or Christian Bale and the other corporate executives were obsessed over their business cards. That's another thing people think they need. They're like, I need to get my business card. I need to have my website. I need to
Yeah,
have my
stuff.
propaganda in place. Yes, all that's important, but when you hand out that business card, they're going to throw it straight to the mail, into the trash.
Mhm.
Why not just go ahead and get you an electronic business card? You can have that set up in 10 minutes. Why waste your money for something that's going into the trash?
Absolutely. Yeah.
These fake false hurdles to, I need to get this, then I need to get this. No, go find some deals.
Yeah. So, I think this we may have even talked about it, but that was my next question was, what do you think is something that new business owners spend way too much time on, and what do you think they should focus on instead? I think we've already kinda talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to hear your answer on it.
Exactly what I said. I think it is important to think about your standard operating procedures, to think about your systems, to think about your processes, and to have a client experience mapped out from A to Z so that you don't drop the ball. But when you're just starting out, you don't know what you don't know. And whatever you create is going to be imperfect. So I like to call it building the plane as we fly it. So the number one thing that you need to focus on is whatever your business is, you need to have customers or you're not in business. So the number one thing you spend your time on is lead generation. And most people spend their time on marketing.
Yeah,
And there's a difference between marketing and lead generation. Marketing is making the world aware of your brand, and there are thousands and thousands of us realtors who have social media followings, and we're putting out content every day, and everybody's liking and comment and subscribing. But at the end of the day, they're not really large enough to be monetized to make a huge income off of it. And then you ask them, how many transactions are you getting off of that? And they're like, well, I don't know if I really get any. I think I got one last quarter. So all of that's valuable. I mean, like I play the same exact game, but I cannot mistake my social media actions, which are marketing actions, as lead generation actions. Every single day, what am I doing to get in front of people and have real estate conversations? And I'm not saying social media can't be a lead magnet, but for most people, they're trying to go viral.
mhm, yeah,
And the problem with going viral is you're getting out to millions of people. If you go viral, you're going out to millions of people, but millions of people aren't your client. You have a specific client avatar that you're going after, and your content needs to be going after those folks. How do I get those folks to talk to me and engage with me so we can actually do some business together? I would much rather have a successful social media presence that starts conversations with my client avatar and have maybe a 1% of the presence of people who go viral. But if I go viral, I just have the whole world just feeding my ego, but none of them are actually doing business with me. So I don't think there are shortcuts. Yes, AI is here. Yes, social media is here. Yes, it's easier to market. But at the bottom of it all, nothing's changed. How do you make the phone ring?
yeah.
How do you get the text and the instant messages to go ding? If that's not happening, you don't have a business.
Well, I think what a lot of people see or think nowadays is with all the AI tools and everything like that, okay, well, it's gonna do it for me. And I think that's not really what the way to look at it is. Okay, look at all of these AI tools or whatever the tool is that you how how much quicker can you get something done that maybe it used to take you an hour and now you can get it done in 10 minutes? Okay, now how much more volume can you do because of this tool? And I think most people look at tools, AI tools as, okay, well, I'm going to find a way for this to replace me. And I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. I think you should look at it as how can this increase my productivity? How can this take a task that used to take an hour and turn it into a 10-minute task so that I can do infinitely more?
Here's
And
a small example, not only in quantity, because in quantity it creates its own quality,
mhm,
but how can this increase the quality of our authenticity?
absolutely.
So, like today, we had a listing appointment with somebody that we knew we weren't going to get the business. According to him, he had spoken to a double digit amount of realtors. And we were the only one that had gotten to a third appointment. And we knew we weren't going to get the business because he was unreasonable in his expectations. But we were there to provide value for in the future when he's reasonable, he's going to be thinking of us. I visited his property last night. We came up with a list of recommendations and we were talking through the list. We were like, hey, when you finally decide to sell, and he doesn't care about the carrying costs. This guy is paying thousands of dollars a month to keep this empty house.
Yeah,
He doesn't want to rent it out because he doesn't want tenants to mess up his remodel, and he's willing to wait 3 years if need be to get his number. Even if you multiply the carrying costs each month times 3 years, it doesn't make mathematical sense. It makes sense enough for him
yeah,
that he's willing to cover that that loss to hit the number that he emotionally wants. We call that emotional equity. So we came up with a list of 8 items that were keeping his house from being sold, and we talked through them with him, and he was happy with that list. No other realtor had told him about that. But at the end of the call, we gave an Easter egg, an extra bonus that he wasn't expecting. We use multiple AI platforms. We went into Gemini. We had Gemini recreate all of those changes that we recommended to the landscaping, to the shutters, to the column, to the color scheme. We had it go in and edit all of those things. And he could actually see what we were seeing in our mind. And when we texted to him, his response was, oh, that does look good.
yeah,
That's value that in the past we would have had to outsource that. We would have had to spend hours. Probably took us 12 minutes of arguing with Chat GPT and Gemini, going back and forth between platforms and cutting and pasting and reprompting and cutting and pasting and reprompting. And eventually we wound up with it.
that's awesome. So as we're wrapping up here, the last question I have for you, and this is my favorite. I don't remember where I heard this, but I know I've heard it somewhere online, so I can't take credit for it. If you could only leave one piece of advice, all of your social media, every conversation you had, everything is wiped out outside of this one piece of advice, what would it be?
So as you know, I'm a big fan of Andy Frisella's 75 hard program.
Mhm.
I do it twice a year. Uh, I just came off of it 2 days ago. So Andy has a potty mouth and I'm trying to stop cussing. So I don't listen to him as much as I used to, but I still get him at least once a week. He pumps me up. He speaks my language. In his head, what he describes is perfectly what I have been battling my entire life. And I just thought I was unique because most people don't talk about the voices in their head without being put in the loony farm. And I've spent time in the loony bin. He describes the two voices. I hear three voices. He calls it the boss voice and the bitch voice. And the boss voice is the one that has the goals and has the dreams and creates the plan. And the bitch voice is the one that causes you to go to a different farm before you get the harvest on your old farm. The bitch voice is the one that after you taste a little bit of success, feeds your ego and makes you think you deserve it and you take your foot off the gas. The bitch voice is the one that talks you out of everything that you have decided with your boss voice that you want to do. And it's like the two voices that the Apostle Paul described in the Bible. The things I want to do, I don't. And the things I don't want to do, I do. And 75 Hard has taught me to shut up the bitch voice and to listen to my boss voice. But there's a third voice I haven't heard in many, many years. But in the past few years, I've been hearing it again, and it led to my recent conversion to Christianity. There's a still small voice way down in the deep inside, which tells you things that you don't want to hear.
Mm,
And it's the one telling you that the hard path is the correct path. The hard decision is the correct decision. The less traveled way is the way. There's this still small voice inside of me that some people call it the gut, some people call it God, some people call it your conscience. But whenever I listen to that voice, I always make the right decision. And whenever I violate that voice, it's because my bitch voice talked me into it and my boss voice went along with it. And at the bottom of it all is my ego.
mm.
And if I can push my ego out of the way and listen to that still small voice, I will make morally correct decisions that just make my life better. And if I engage my ego in a proper way, that's my boss voice. It helps me to accomplish the things that the still small voice is putting on my heart to accomplish. We need funds to fund charities. We need people to go out and be successful in business so that we can take care of our friends and our family and our communities. Not everybody is going to dominate and become the president or the CEO, but all of us can be the best version of whatever we are. So I would say my biggest piece of advice is gang up with the boss voice and the still small voice and find a way to shut that bitch up.
Well, Jason, you have some great advice. Before we get off of here, for the people that want to know more about you, to keep up with you, what's the best way or the best platform for them to check you out on?
I am technically Generation X, but you kids these days call me a boomer. I'm not a boomer, but technologically I am. I have my Facebook account cloned to just spit stuff over to Instagram. Uh, and a lot of that just clones over to YouTube as well. Two best places to find me are Fishing Realtor 2.0. That's my handle on Facebook, and that's my handle on YouTube. Most of the stuff I do on Facebook, I just love to document my daily life, my family. I love the memory line in it. So if you want to see the real, authentic me at my ups, my downs, my middles, at my true dorkiness, my true authenticity, come see me on Facebook. You'll see the real thing. If you want to see the professional version of me spewing facts, figures, go to YouTube.
Jason, thank you so much for coming on. It was a great conversation, and I think that someone will definitely get value out of this. So thank you so much, and we'll do it again soon.
I hope so. My pleasure, Jackson.